What if your kids could take anything in their imagination and turn into a really cool sticker without touching an iPad, a computer, the internet, or even asking for your help? Today, we're talking to Arun Gupta, the founder of HapiCo, which created a great new product called Stickerbox. Looks a little bit like an old Etch-a-Sketch, but kids can speak into it and output a great sticker easily. I'm Peter. I'm the host of Trending Forward. If you're a parent, a grandparent, or just an AI nerd, I think you're going to find this really, really interesting.
Myriad of questions we've got right now as parents about AI and, what kind of impact it's having on children. But you do something quite different, don't you?
It all comes from us starting with a very simple question. And that question is, what if AI was built for kids? We really want to make AI that parents can trust and that kids love. And I think we start with this question of okay, forget what exists in the marketplace. If we take the technology of AI and we say, hey, how would kids use this? What if this was built specifically for kids? What do we get? And what we get is the sticker box, right? So we talk about kids' imaginations, right? What do kids have that, is so special to them? Their incredible creativity, their incredible imaginations. They have tons of things in their head all the time. What if they can make those things real?
So Arun, it's interesting. We're looking at your background, and it seems like you came out of healthcare and a bunch of other stuff. You're not a toy guy per se. So how'd you wind up here? Why HapiCo now?
Yeah, I'll give you the 30,000 foot view. So I started my first company while I was in college. I went to Yale studying physics, and this was back in 2008. And I ended up dropping out because in 2008, as we all know, the market financial crisis happened. So I was like, I'm not getting a job anyway. Might as well drop out and make a full go at my company. And like you mentioned, it was a health tracker. So it was a sleep tracker. So it was a wristband that you wore on your wrist, had an accelerometer in it to track your movements, used a science called actigraphy to basically track your sleep cycles over the course of the night. And then it would Bluetooth to your iPhone, Android, or BlackBerry in order to wake you up at the right time in the morning within a predetermined 20-minute window. So that company was great. We ended up getting into Y Combinator, and it was kind of my first foray into entrepreneurship. Also my first foray into hardware. And we made 10,000 of these devices in Fremont, California, sold them all. And faced big competition from Fitbit and Jawbone and, other companies. So ended up running it for a few years and then shutting it down. That was my basically introduction to entrepreneurship. I'm like, hey, this is a real career that I can have. And being in Y Combinator was super transformative and inspiring. Back in 2009, it was in the same cohort as Stripe, which was really great. And then from there, I started another company, and I decided not to go back to hardware because I was like, hey, I want to have it a little easier this time. And I started a company called Grailed.com. And Grailed is a fashion marketplace. So similar to Depop, Poshmark, The RealReal, people are buying and selling clothes to each other. Unlike those marketplaces, we focused a lot on the high end. So Gucci, Saint Laurent, Nike, Jordans, Acme, APC, more of these artisanal high-end pieces of clothing. And we also had, the gamut of American Eagle or Hollister and all of that, J. Crew as well. But focused more on the high end because it was a higher value proposition, and then also skewed a little bit more towards male than female. So we were about 70-30 male-female, whereas some of the other marketplaces were more 95-5 female-male. So it was good for us, and it was a great opportunity, great business. I started that in 2013. So basically caught the rise of the reselling platform, as well as the rise of men's clothing and men's fashion, Supreme and Nikes and all of that stuff. So I ran that business for about 9 years, and then ended up selling it to Goat Group, which is this multi-billion-dollar sneaker reseller in LA. I worked there for a couple of years. And as I was working on Grailed, we hired, hundreds of people over my time at Grailed. And there was one person that we hired who I was like, this guy knows what he's doing. And he was transformative from us for an engineering perspective. We hired him in as an engineering director. He quickly became the number 2 behind my CTO at the time. His name was Robert Whitney. And then while we were sort of finalizing the acquisition, he got an offer to lead engineering for New York Times Games when they brought on Wordle. So they went from however many people playing the crossword to 80 million people a day playing Wordle, and they needed a big tech upgrade. So he went there. And then after that, he spent a year at Anthropic. He's my co-founder at this company, but basically we linked up because we always knew we wanted to work together. And he came to me with the idea for Stickerbox, and we eventually morphed it into HapiCo. But to sort of like come back to your original question, like why kids' toys, why AI for kids? When I started Grailed, I was 25 or maybe 24, and I really wanted to be cool. So I started the fashion company.
You are cool. Let's hear cool.
I appreciate that. But yeah, I really wanted to be cool and, and I wanted to be successful. So I started the fashion company. And I think that starting this company, I really want to be a dad and I really want to do something good for the next generation. And I think that when you talk about impacting kids and the way that they grow up, like I think so much about the different experiences I had as a kid, like the Pokemon and Game Boy or, just any of these like Bop It or like these iconic sort of like devices or experiences or like Noodle Caboodle. I don't know if that resonates with anybody, but like all these like different things that sort of impacted my childhood and really made me who I am today. Really, really important to me. So a mission that is easy to believe in.
I've got an absolute ton of questions for you in terms of this because I've got a 4-year-old and an 11-year-old. All of these things are there, but I think for the listener or for the viewer, like, can you explain what this Stickerbox actually does in terms of how it works, etc., what they're going to get? Because I think when we get to that, we can definitely explore some of the myriad questions we've got right now as parents about like AI and what kind of impact it's having on children. But you do something quite different, don't you?
Yeah, and I think it all comes from us starting with a very simple question, and that question is, what if AI was built for kids? And I think that Bob and I, when we started this company, were very inspired by social media and the impact that social media has had on the younger generation. Social media, everybody knows this, not controversial, built with casino mechanics, built to give you that dopamine hit, built for as much engagement as possible so they can serve you as much.
Wait, what? This is new.
But then you take that and you put that to kids and you're like, this doesn't really fit super well. There is no social media that's really built for kids in the way that they are. And I think you see the same thing with AI. And for me and Bob, we really want to make AI that parents can trust and that kids love. And I think we start with this question of like, okay, forget what exists in the marketplace. If we take the technology of AI and we say, hey, how would kids use this? What if this was built specifically for kids? What do we get? And what we get is the Stickerbox, right? So we talk about kids' imaginations, right? What do kids have that, is so special to them? Their incredible creativity, their incredible imaginations. They have tons of things in their head all the time. What if they can make those things real? So, here's the Stickerbox. I'll just give you a quick thing. You push the button, you speak a prompt. I talked about a Tiger astronaut. It gives you a sticker and then it prints it out the top with thermal printing. But, it's very different than every single other AI toy for kids that's on the marketplace right now, because every single AI toy for kids that's on the marketplace right now is a chatbot built into a teddy bear, right? Yeah. So you got a teddy bear that talks back to you, basically Teddy Ruxpin 2.0. But I think it really exemplifies what I'm talking about, where they're not building AI for kids. They're taking ChatGPT, which is built for adults, and then putting it in a teddy bear for kids, which is not, in our opinion, not the right way to go about this. You want to start from the ground up and be like, what do kids have that's unique to them? Their imagination. What can we do to exponentially, help them realize their dreams and their imagination? And I think that's how we got to Stickerbox.
Yeah. Well, in getting ready for this conversation, I started to look at some of those toys and I heard like horror stories about, oh, here's your little plushie talking to you about bondage and discipline. Here's your little plushie talking to you about how to acquire weapons. And it was like, oh, come on.
Yeah. But it's difficult, right? Because AI is a new technology. It's a generalized technology, right? They're LLMs. They're not intelligent, right? They're like pattern matching. And the LLM doesn't know that it's a child, or you can easily get around those guardrails. But that's the danger of shoehorning this technology into a product for kids. You don't know what's going to happen. And recalls happen. Dangerous things happen. And for us as a company, that's the worst thing. Like we're trying to have a positive impact on the world. We're trying to have affect a generation of kids. Like doing anything negative or like, leading them in the wrong direction. It's such a huge responsibility to put out a product for kids. And it's something that needs to be taken very, very seriously.
So talk for a minute about the design of Stickerbox and sort of how you sort of balance those two things, encourage creativity, at the same time, put some guardrails on it. So, kids don't go off into dark places.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think starting with image generation was a really great place instead of an open-ended chatbot, right? Because the chatbots they say anything, there's really no guardrails. You can try to put them, but it's much, much more difficult to put guardrails around a chatbot. For us with the image generation, it's a lot simpler, right? It's a little bit more sandbox. Part of the reason why we decided to start with this, in addition to sort of the creativity aspect of it. So we have a lot of guardrails built into the box right now. And it's a lot of proprietary software, but basically you can think of it in a simple way that there's a system where the child speaks a prompt, the prompt gets translated into text, the text gets translated into an image, and the image comes back. So in that process, there are multiple choke points. There's the choke point of where the text gets made, and then you can scan what's in the text, and then you can do safety filtering on that. There's the prompt that goes from the text to the image, and you can scan that and see what's going to the image. And then there's also the enhancement on the image model and like the guardrails and the directions that the image model has. And then even on the back end of that, once the image is generated, you can analyze that as well. And then you can sort of figure out, is that safe or is it not? So we have a whole network of, AI safety filters that my co-founder, Robert Whitney, has developed that are proprietary to the company that basically put all these guardrails into place. But it's a fine line, right? Because when a kid says poop, you want to show some poop. It's funny.
Is it based on your own proprietary LLM, or is it a case of you're using another chatbot to
proprietary? Yeah.
Okay. So that makes a big difference, obviously, as well. Like you said, you got less to control.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So we're able to have a lot of influence over the output. And honestly, it has to be because there's so much customization that goes into this device. A little bit off, topic here, but this is a thermal printer. It's meant to print receipts, and receipts have text on them. They don't have images on them, right? So to get like a high quality image print, like, 306 DPI off of a thermal printer is insane. And it has everything to do with the firmware and the programming that goes into the thermal printer itself that we have made, as well as how you link the image model to it and the outputs you get from the image model as well.
Interesting. So the kid comes up with their own idea. Show me an astronaut, show me a cat, and that's translated. And are there limits to what you can do? I mean, separate from what you want to do, are there limits to what you can generate in terms of an image?
Yeah. So standard safety filtering and all the stuff that you would think about. You can think about it like motion picture association ratings, right? Like G, PG, PG-13, R. I would say that right now we're about PG is basically where we're at right now. Eventually, I'm sure we'll allow more granular controls, but it's better to err on the side of more safe rather than less safe as you're starting out. Sure. So no nudity, no gore, no violence, no blood, like all of those things are sort of like disallowed, all the typical things you would think of. But beyond that, you can create literally anything. And one of the really nice things about the box is that it scales with where you are as a person. So if you're a 4-year-old and you're like, oh, what do I want? Grapes. Then it gives you a nice little line drawing of grapes. And that's really cool. Or if you're like a 12-year-old, you're like, a Russian noblewoman in her beautiful villa reclining on a chaise lounge, and her servant is like feeding her grapes, draped above her. It'll paint that scene for you. You can speak sentences, paragraphs to the box if you want, and it'll basically scale up and down with how much data you give it. So it's pretty limitless. One of my, I'll just say one more thing. One of my favorite things to do with the box is to try to like break it in some way where it's like, show me something that doesn't exist, or show me something that's not possible to exist, or tell me about the craziest dream that you've ever had. It's not a real dream and you can't be real, but it's a beautiful dream, and like, show it to me. And then like, you see what you get back and you're like, whoa, like that's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I think is productive, I've sat there with my grandkids who are between 6 and 13, and especially with the younger ones, they love to generate images even off of ChatGPT. And the iterative process of when they try to describe something, no, that's not what I want. Okay, I want the dog to be bigger. I want the space aliens to blow up the city. Just the process of kind of thinking about how to talk to an LLM is actually useful for them in terms of other stuff as well. It's just that notion that you try to describe what you see in your head and have it come out on a piece of paper,
and repeating that process over and over again, it builds, skills. I mean, I don't want to say that we're teaching or, I don't want to make any claims about like, we're going to educate anything. I would say if anything, we're in the edutainment sort of like space, but we've seen two things happen. One, maybe the box doesn't understand you exactly. Maybe you're 4, you're 5. We've seen kids like enunciate where it's like, no, I said tiger, not tiger, it's like tiger. So we've seen that. And we've seen some really interesting reactions from speech pathologists, which has been really cool. But then the other thing we've seen is exactly what you said, right? Where it's like, oh, I described this thing and the image didn't come out exactly how I wanted. Let me try again. And let me try again. Let me describe it a different way. Let me describe it a different way. And then it's them learning how to get what they want out of it. And it's like a fun sort of like exploration for them where like there's a skill here of getting the right image out of the box. The more you have, longer you have the box, the longer you talk to it, the more you understand it. And the more you're able to get, basically exactly what you want or more and more complicated things out of it, which is honestly an amazing side effect. And I think something that keeps kids coming back again and again.
You're at kind of an interesting intersection here, I think, just in terms of where we are with children in general. I think on the one side, you've got, you're launching into an AI toy space when there's lots of headlines right now of people, fair play are saying AI toys are bad. It's just a blanket sweeping statement. And obviously there's nuances we talked about here. On the other side, we've got this world where, we're seeing lots of different toys come out for children. I see them all the time, which is great. That are just focused on the one thing. So like I can't remember the name of it. It's Tony Box, I think, where you can put a character on top, the speaker, and he'll play you a song or play a story. So, and that's it. And I was like, great. It's tactile. It's functional. It's advanced because it's smart, but it doesn't do loads of things, which is obviously what people worry about when you've got an iPad. So on the one hand, you said you're leading this charge of just simple, do a thing. Your focus is completely there. Absolutely what children need. We're seeing, social media being banned across and smartphones being castigated for under 16s. From my perspective, great. So how do you kind of balance those two things? On the one hand, you're embracing AI for the good, but people are giving it a bad rep at the same time. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah. And I think it's all about thoughtful product design, right? It comes back to what is your ethos as a company? And for us, it's like, what if AI was made for kids? Not what if we take the AI that's made for adults and give it to kids? I think the Tony Box and the Yoto are great examples of products, right? They're kind of like modern day cassette players, right? Where you put in the cassette and then they play back the audio for you. And they have more interactive elements and all of that, but they're really exciting and obviously very inspirational for us when it comes to making something very simple. But I think, to answer your question very directly, for us, what makes the box so amazing or what makes Stickerbox so great is that the AI disappears behind the magic of the box. The AI is not at the center of the box. It's not even about AI at all for the children, right? It's like you push the button, you say what it is that you want to cut out, and then immediately you see it like in your hand, right? You're holding a physical thing in your hand. It's unbelievable. It's mind-blowing for these children. And then they can do it again and again and again, and there's no limit. But the AI itself is just an enablement, right? And it disappears completely behind the magic of like, one, seeing your ideas come to life, but then two, like having these incredible stickers just in your hand, like I spoke about a castle and now all of a sudden here a castle is, it's like, it's unbelievable. And then you go again and again. Got another one here that I like to do, like a little panda eating ramen. But this isn't AI. I mean, it is AI, right? But for the kid, it's not AI. For the kid, it's like, this was my idea, right? This was my idea that came to life. And the AI piece of it is just functionality that's not even necessary to know about.
I think this touches as well on a really interesting debate that I often, have with other parents around. Some are very pro AI, some are very much against it. I saw your device described as like a very modern day Etch-a-Sketch. You've got very much, it's black and white on the front. There's lots of similarities there. But what we had with Etch-a-Sketch was, the physical interaction. You had to, admittedly, I was rubbish at it, and you'd see the people that create amazing images.
We all were. Etch-a-Sketch was incredibly frustrating. It never worked.
I managed to do a diagonal line and felt like I was a genius. Like you turned at the same time.
I couldn't even make a square.
Yeah. But what's interesting there is that what it did do was encourage creativity. I think Etch-a-Sketch is a bad idea because, like I said, many children got bored and like, well, this is any good. But the idea of, some parents would say that, okay, a panda eating ramen, I'd rather my child try to draw that and color it in themselves rather than AI doing the job for me and just go, oh, okay, I've done that. And that is kind of touching on the debate as well right now, where people are starting to do things with AI because they can, and actually it's starting to have an impact on their ability to, communicate. We're seeing the way that people are talking is starting to change because of AI. So how do you feel about that? Because obviously things should evolve, things should change, and as new technology comes in, harness it for good. And I think absolutely here, giving children the chance to see things that they couldn't do before is amazing. But how do you respond to the fact that it could potentially be slowing down opportunities to be creative, with just drawing, for instance?
100%. And I think it's really all about how you use the tool. And it's great that you mentioned the Etch-a-Sketch thing, because honestly, I was trying to pay homage a little bit, me and my co-founder and I, to the Etch-a-Sketch with the design of the box, right? It's like very reminiscent of it. And, the reason is because it's exactly what you said. I couldn't do the Etch-a-Sketch when I was a kid. I wasn't great at it, and it was really, really hard. And then also I wasn't the best artist. My older brother, incredible artist, drew beautiful images. I really wasn't so good. So in middle school, when we took the test to be like, who could be in the advanced art class and who would be in like the, lesser art class, I tested into the lesser art class, and I was really disappointed as a child. I really wanted to go into art. I really wanted to be more creativity. And that kind of pushed me in a different direction, where I ended up majoring in physics at Yale and being more science oriented and doing more research and stuff like that. But I didn't come back to creativity and design and, arts until later on in life. And it honestly has a lot to do with just my experiences growing up and how children are kind of pushed in different directions, or like, I don't feel like I'm able to do this, so it's not something that's available to me. So for me, I see people who, potentially are a little bit developmentally delayed, or, aren't the best artists or whatever it is. And they're just the magic of letting them bring their ideas to life, whereas they couldn't like draw it necessarily, is just so powerful, and it's amazing. And we're not saying that you can't draw, like we're going to introduce a feature into the box where you can do a drawing and then upload your drawing into the box. And then you can basically have your character, make a little stick figure character named Max, upload them into the box, and you put your creativity into the box. The box is not the hero. The kid is the hero. The sticker is the hero.
That's exactly it. I think, in terms of parenting right now, it's of course you can do it. You can give your kid an iPad at 2:00 in the morning when they're 2 years old, because it keeps them quiet. Like, it's your choice how you do these things.
Right.
Absolutely.
What we have is more akin to coloring books, right? Yeah. Like, you're just generating your own coloring book. And like, people who use coloring books are not like, oh, because you're using a coloring book, you're never going to learn how to draw, right? It doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? Just because one tool is available doesn't mean that you can't use other tools.
Yeah, and it's the parent's choice. Like I said, it's what you want to expose them to. That's exactly it.
What's my side with the argument with calculators? Well, if you get a calculator, you'll never learn how to multiply.
Yeah, which is like clearly not.
I did have this conversation with Educator the other day. I did castigate her for using a calculator for a really simple sum, so I am on that side. But generally speaking, I agree.
But again, it's about education in children, right? It's about how you raise them, how you bring them up. You don't want to be afraid of technology, but you want to be able to use it in the right way. And I think that's what we want to bring here, is technology that is able to be used in the right way. Not a teddy bear that you give to your child and who knows how they're going to use it or what's going to come out of it. This box, parents can understand this box. They understand what's going to do, what it's not going to do. They can trust that it's going to do what they think it will do. And then they can decide for themselves how they want to use it. If they're like, hey, I only want my child to draw ever. I never want them to use coloring books. I never want them to, be able to print these images. That's totally great. And that's amazing. And you should do that. If on the other hand, you're like, hey, I think my child's creativity would be extremely stimulated by this, and it would allow them to generate all these ideas. And we see kids making comics and stories and like multiple series and like storyboarding, like, films that they want to make. Like, that's another avenue that you want to go down. But it really is, I think, up to you.
Actually, you touched on something. I just want to make sure I heard it correctly. Are there controls that the parent can enter into Stickerbox, or is it just, it comes, they're all the same?
Right now, I guess it means specifically, what do you mean specifically by controls?
Well, no, you're saying that, the parent could say, oh, I don't want the kid to be able to print, or I don't want the kid to be able to do this. I was just asking whether, in terms of like, are there sort of parental controls or choices that kind of override the functionality of the Stickerbox?
Yeah. So the box, works with the parent companion app right now, iOS or Android app. And through that app, you can basically change the functionality of it. We don't have a functionality where you can like stop the print right now, or like, just make images. But I guess the point I was really trying to make is like, it's up to you if you want to buy the box or not. Like, if you want to buy the box and use it for your kids, do it. If you don't want to, like, you don't have to. Like, nobody's forcing this on any of these parents.
And what you mentioned there about potential upgrades, you said they can upload images of a stick pen. Could they upload images themselves, or how would that be allowed in terms of, the guardrails, etc.?
Absolutely. So one thing that's really, really important when it comes to building devices for children, especially digital devices, is COPPA compliance. So COPPA, COPPA compliance. So making sure that everything is extremely COPPA compliant is, day one for us. So we are COVID compliant. So when you upload an image for the device, it has to do with like, how long do you retain it? How much personal information is there? How do you delete the personal information? How do you store it? But yeah, that feature is definitely on the roadmap for us. And sooner rather than later. So you can upload a photo of yourself, upload a photo of your mom. Obviously, you have to have consent and you have to be able, the parent has to do it. It's in the parent companion app. But then you can be like, me and my mom in space, me and my mom having a picnic on the moon, me and my family, on safari, or whatever you want. But really, it's about giving kids more empowerment to create, right? So I can create my tiger character and then reuse them in different stories. I can upload my own drawings and use that character in different stories. I can upload a photo of myself, use myself in different stories. And then eventually, getting a little bit further into the roadmap, I can send my character to your box. So I can send my tiger character to your box, or I can send my own avatar of myself to your box. And then me and you could sort of create things together. And you can even imagine a world where it's like Snapchat streaks, right? Where you're sending things back and forth to each other, but it's like a never ending story. Right. And like maybe there's 3 of us and we I make the first panel, then you make the next panel, then you make the next panel. And then we go in a circle and it's like the wizard and the turtle, they go into a castle, they find an ogre, then they go and they meet the princess, or, you can create this whole world. So that's really what we're trying to do, is give kids creative studio, creative license to creative studio, and empower them and not be limited by the technical limitations of Photoshop or being a perfect artist.
What age group do you target this at? What do you think the sweet spot is?
So I think we're looking at anywhere from like 4 to 13. I think once you get past 13, obviously computers is like, and phones are obviously a big thing. But really, I think it comes back to what I said before about how those different age groups use the device. At 4, 5, 6, you're really saying like a car on the road, or like a dog or a cat. Right. And then when you get to be like 8, 9, 10, you're like making more complicated things. And you're like a dog swimming in the ocean, or a dog surfing in the ocean, or like a dog standing on the surface of the sun, like what does that look like? Right. Or like somebody surfing on the rings of Saturn, or like you get more abstract, complicated with it. But yeah, I think it's what we see really is that these younger kids it's more of like a family device, it's like really brings people together because it's so fun and like, it's just so interesting, where it's like, you buy it for your child and then they make something and then you're like, I want to go and I want to do one. And then you make one and then you're like laughing and you're like making them back and forth. Who can make the silliest one? Who can make the cutest one? And then really it encourages a lot of family bonding time at those younger ages, like 4, 5, 6. And then a lot more creative expression, creative freedom at those older ages, though then also still bringing families together, obviously.
Did you consult with any child psychologists, educators, child development experts that we are building the product?
Yeah, so we obviously read a lot of white papers, a lot of research papers. There's been a lot written about chatbots and basically how children develop emotions and emotional relationships with inanimate objects versus people. All right. So it's like, you don't want to have anyway, you get what I'm saying. So we talked to them. We talked to a lot of teachers who were basically on the front line. So like a lot of Montessori teachers, a lot of like elementary school teachers. And yeah, basically talked to a lot of them about how they would like to see the device. And we started prototyping with them very early on, putting boxes like in front of them that they could use with children, and just making sure that they felt like this was a positive tool. So I mentioned speech pathologists before, right? People like that we've talked to. And they're all very interested in the device. So it's been a lot of conversations around.
What kind of feedback did they give the teachers? What kind of things were they saying on the front line?
They are overwhelmingly positive about it. I don't want to toot our own horn, right? But they're like, look, we use stickers in our classroom already. Like we buy stickers and we use them. And they're like, this is such an amazing tool for them, 1, to create, but 2, for motivation. One amazing story that I love is and a friend of mine, I gave them an early version maybe 6 months ago or something like that. And it was right around the time that her child was learning how to read and write. So what she would do is, you have to hold the thought in your head and have it ready for the Stickerbox. So she'd be like, okay, like write down what you want to say, write a sentence, and then you'll say it to the Stickerbox, and then it'll print it out, and then you'll paste it on, up my page. You'll basically have a daily journal of, sentences and ideas that you've come up with, and then the output. And she said to me, a little while ago, she was like, this is amazing. She's like, she bought, I think 8 to 10 sticker boxes for her friends and family for Christmas, because she was like, this ignited my child's interest in writing. right? She was like, this is what really motivated him to like learn how to write, because he could like think of his thought, write it down. And then once he was able to write it down, he could say it into the box and get this like beautiful, you know, image, beautiful, I don't want to say reward, right? Or like something that like just close the loop really, really well. So I think teachers are just loving it as like a stimulating activity, but stimulating in the right way, right? You're not like mindlessly staring at a screen. In fact, the screen is like the least important part of it, right? It's the sticker that comes out that's the most important part of it. So I think that's what parents and teachers are loving, is that it's almost, it feels like a screen-free device because the screen isn't the hero, the sticker is the hero, and the kid's idea is the hero.
And what did you get any negative feedback that you had to take on board and adapt with?
I'm trying to think. Honestly, the biggest piece of negative feedback that we got was people were like, oh, I wish that I didn't have to print it automatically. I wish I could cancel it and then say it again and then, you know, print it based off of my decision. I think the biggest piece of negative feedback that we haven't gotten any sort of from those teachers personally, but the biggest we've seen reaction in the marketplace has been kind of what you said earlier about like, oh, my child won't learn how to draw now, you know, and I think that's really the most, I guess, largest thing that's come out of it, which again, to that, I would say like, you know, like we're not stopping them from drawing, you know, it's like, yeah, exactly. You know, in fact, we're trying to encourage creativity. We're not trying to stop it. So, you know, building features like letting them upload their drawings. Like what we really see is people take the sticker and then do other things with it, right? It's like you generate the sticker out of the box, then you paste it on your notebook, you paste it on your water bottle, you paste it on a piece of paper with 3 other stickers, and you draw around it and you color around it and you make a little bit of a story. So yeah, I think really it's a starting point. It's not an end all be all. Like kids aren't sitting here like staring at the screen like moment after moment. They're taking the sticker and like running and playing with it.
Yeah. I'm smiling because I've seen that kind of glazed look with like staring at the iPad.
Yeah. But it's so magical because it's physical, right? Imagine if it didn't print and it was just the box and it just showed you this image over and over and over again. That would be a completely different device, and it'll be a completely different play pattern, a completely different interaction. The fact that it gives you a physical artifact, right? That you can take this artifact and then color it in, paste it in your notebook, do whatever you show it to your parents, right? The box isn't meant to suck you in, right? The box is meant to be an empowerment vehicle for you to like a creative tool for you to do other things. It's a springboard.
And why don't you allow it to, you know, to correct images, like you said, rather than just instantly printing? Why can't it, you know, if you decide, oh no, not that, why can't you, if it from an environmental perspective as well, that sounds like, you know, that's creating wastage. So do you have any plans to deal with that?
Yes, it's a great idea and we're definitely going to do it. It's just, you know, development bandwidth, right? Like I think when you think about our development roadmap, a lot of it is safety first, right? It's like you can't ignore the safety piece of it. So a lot of the work that we've done over the past 6-9 months has been really safety oriented. The COPA compliance, hardware compliance, you know, like there's so many regulations like CPSIA 101, FHSA, mechanical regulations, you know, like BPA, BPS free paper, huge, right? Thermal paper is like very notorious for having BPA, BPS. That's like a little bit old and like now the industry has kind of moved on, but still it's work to source a very high quality piece of thermal paper that is BPA and BPS free. It's very difficult. So all of those things sort of like took precedence in our minds over like cramming the fun software features in, which we are very excited to do. But we kind of felt like we had to earn the right to put these more fun software features in as opposed to leading with that.
This has been fabulous, but I want to keep a couple of minutes towards the end of our conversation to talk about, give parents some ideas about, you know, they're walking down the aisle at Walmart or Target or whatever, and they see this AI toys. As they sort of stare at the things on the shelf, what are some things that they should think about, look for to say the toy is either good or bad? Because I mean, obviously there's some that are not good or not safe. Like,
Yeah.
how can they tell?
It's a great question, honestly. And things are evolving so quickly, right? Like things are moving rapidly. It's really hard to stay on top of these things. And I think it's very important as a parent to be able to stay on top of these things and know. I guess I would say the number one thing that I would think about is something that we mentioned earlier in the conversation, which is, do I know exactly what this device is going to do? Because if you take a teddy bear that has a chatbot in it, I know it's going to talk to my child, but do I know exactly what it's going to say? I might not, you know? So that's the question I would ask myself is, do I know exactly what this device is going to do? Right? Because like you take our thing, it's like, it's going to print a sticker for you. You know, you're going to make an image. It's going to print a sticker for you. It's very well defined in this box. You know exactly what it's going to do. You can trust it's going to do what it's going to do. But like the power of AI and the danger of AI is that it can do a lot of different things, right? And like you almost, it's almost difficult to control what it is going to do, which I think is what some of these toys are running into. So I think that's the number one thing I would say as a parent. When you pick up that toy or you look at that toy in Walmart and you're staring at it, be like, can I fully comprehend exactly what this toy is going to do and exactly how my child is going to use it? Or do I have not know like how they're going to use it or what's going to happen? And when I think about that, does the not knowing excite me or does the not knowing scare me? Right? Because when you think about Stickerbox, I don't know what, kid's going to do with it, but that's exciting, right? Because they can make all these different characters and all these different worlds and all these different things, right? But like when I look at a teddy bear that's a chatbot and I'm like, I don't know what they're going to do with it. It's a little bit scary because I'm like, they could be talking about all these other things that are in the news. So I think that's what I would say is like, think about what it does and can you be sure that it does what it does and like play that forward to your child's play patterns and like how will that fit into their life? So think about what it is and how sure you can be about it does what it says it's going to do.
Yeah. Gareth, any last questions before we wrap this?
No, I just wanted to finally ask, is there anything, because obviously this, like I said, is a futuristic device. I think it's the sort of thing, you mentioned children make different relationships with people to inanimate objects. This kind of bridges the gap a little bit because you can interact. Like for the older of us, in terms of,
we were the older of us. The older of us.
Defined, yeah.
We're all in the same room here.
Yeah, but for those who don't grow up with the world of streaming and generative AI and all these kind of things, how have you found adults kind of responding to this? Like I said, this very interesting point about the idea of like, I've seen, there's artwork, I've seen a Kickstarter recently where you same thing, you can dictate artwork and it will change on the wall. I mean, how have adults resolved this? Because I mean, one of the things I find is I'm so happy that I can give my children an iPad for a long car journey because they can watch a film. I'm like, that's fine. I'm deep down inside really annoyed because I would have loved that so much as a child. So how do they deal with that?
I think one thing that we've seen lately is this kid-adult phenomenon, right? A little portmanteau of kid and adult, right? So Labubu, great example of kid-adult, right? Where it's like really obviously made for children, but then you see like, young adults basically like wearing them or having them and collecting them and all of this stuff. And even stuff like Pokemon or, Magic, Magic is a little bit older, but stuff like Pokemon, right? Or like things that were maybe probably made for kids or a lot of stuff that Nintendo has done, right? There's this big crossover phenomenon between things that are made for children that adults love to use. And I think that, it's a little cliche to say, but Stickerbox is made for the kid in all of us. It's a really fun product. Like I have a lot of different characters I like to make. I love using it. Like I said, I love like trying to like trick it into like doing different weird things, like, things that don't exist or, seeing what we'll come up with. We've sent out a bunch to friends and family and actually sent out one to a friend and they sent a video to another friend of ours of them out at a bar with the sticker box plugged in, and they were all printing they all had name tags that were printed out of the sticker box with their names on them and like, hearts or a tennis racket or like whatever, baseball, whatever. And then they were just printing different images, but they were just hanging out at a bar, having a couple beers and just having fun playing with the box and like seeing what comes out. And I think that what's so magical about this is all the physical AI devices that are out there right now, they just listen to everything you say. Right? That's what they do, right? Even the OpenAI device, it's meant to listen to everything you say and then do something with that data and then give you something better. I mean, I don't know exactly what the OpenAI device is, right? I'm just speculating, right? But most of the devices that are out there, whether they're wristbands or rings or pendants, they listen to you. And they use that sort of modality. This is the only device, a physical device that has an image model in it, right? Besides like an iPhone, right? This is the only purpose-made physical device that has an image model built into it. And beyond that, it's the only device that actually gives you a physical output. Right. And that is so unique. AI that gives you a physical output, transformative. So I think it affects everybody, even adults.
I think you just touched on another kind of important kind of blinking yellow light for parents, which is this toy listening?
Yeah.
Is it kind of always on, always listening and gathering information?
Yeah. So we are very intentional about that. Like I said, for us, parent trust and safety is number one. We have no company, we have no device, we have no mission without parent trust and parent safety. So the device itself is only listening when you're holding down the button. So you have to hold down the button and then it goes into this listening mode. And then when you let go of the button, it stops listening. And that's the only time that the device is ever listening to you. And, and all the data is is only stored for as long as is necessary. Then it's all deleted. There's no personal identifiable information. We're fully COPA compliant. But yeah, always on listening is a huge thing. And you have other sort of like smart home devices that, you're not really sure about. But this device, it only ever can listen to you when you're holding the button down.
Did it just create an image when you held it down just then?
Yeah, but I canceled it.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Arun. This has been so much fun and really educational. So appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been really great. I appreciate the thoughtful questions as well. It's been fun to explore all these different areas.